I did not grow up going to traditional Sunday schools and services, and now I am actually teaching Sunday school here at Trinity. So if I could go back 20 years and tell my teenage self, like, hey, we're teaching Sunday school, they would be very stunned or surprised because there have been lower points where you're questioning everything, like, is there even a God? And getting kind of that almost rebellious angst and lots of searching or questioning and finding there is some other higher power and wanting to impart that onto the youth here at Trinity. So yeah, I did not grow up attending Sunday school, and now I'm our Sunday school coordinator. And part of that process, when I heard the position became available, I was interested, but I kind of waited to see if there was anyone else who really wanted to do that or felt like that was their calling. And I had some different personal struggles, like physically and things this year, and I was having a really hard time this summer. And like the next day, within the next 24, 48 hours, I got phone calls from like Marie and Pastor Paul saying, hey, we want you to do this position. We want you to come help with Sunday school. It was really quite timely. Like coincidence versus intervention, divine intervention. But I did say yes, and I wanted to be able to introduce our kiddos and the youth to Jesus and like God's love and how we are all a part of that together. I would say finding faith and incorporating that as part of my life now has definitely instilled or imparted in me to try to do good and be good, and also expanding grace towards people, just because you never know what kind of struggles they've had, be it that day or that week or their different aspects of their life, and just having that kindness and being welcoming can make a huge difference to that person or maybe that community, and you might never even know. Since I didn't grow up with a regular Sunday school or church service that I would attend, different parts that stand out to me from then through now would be seeing like the Lord's Prayer at a house that I would babysit for, or having other families read like a children's Bible as part of their regular routine. So it let me kind of explore in that realm. I attended with another good friend in elementary school to their church, and they were very welcoming and kind of helped me dip my toe, so to speak, into that world. Another aspect was in high school, I dated a person who came from a very, very Catholic family. I think that also helped shape part of my faith formation, because I explored like what it would take to become a Catholic person per se, and it didn't quite sit right with me. It wasn't like my absolute like, yes, this is it, makes sense, this resonates with me so much. There were some things that were very off-putting. And another time I went to a friend's baptism for their child, and something that stood out was at the end of the service, like that pastor came out and found me to be like, why didn't you take communion? Because going to all these Catholic services, it was very much like, we don't care if you're baptized or not or anything else, you don't get to do communion. Or like at this other, I don't know, I think they're Lutheran, but that church, they were like, why didn't you take communion? And it kind of stuck out to me that he made an effort to connect with me and reach out and have a discussion with me. It got a little intense too, to try to search, like, why aren't you doing communion? You can take it, you know that? And I had to explain, like, I know the rules, like, I physically can't because I hadn't been even baptized. And so he wanted to make sure, like, as long as I still had a belief in, like, God or Jesus, then, like, that would be okay. And, like, we could solve the rest. So that was reassuring, too, and kind of stuck out to me that there was other ways to still believe in Jesus and believe in God, but not have to be as non-inclusive as sometimes Catholics come off at times towards different marginalized groups of people, that you really can welcome everybody, and that kind of set more right. And then during like my first pregnancy, I had like a lot of anxiety because I know a lot of people that have struggled or have had miscarriages and had pregnancy concerns. And that got a lot of worry in me. And like, how can you go to sleep when you're trying to grow a little human? And I remember driving by a sign that was always, give your worries to the Lord. And so I tried that, and that really made a big difference. Like being able to come to terms with, it's not just me, there's so much more in action. And if you give those different problems and worries and anxieties to God, it really can be a relief. And so that really helped get through my pregnancies. And I actually did my baptism then with Hudson when he was an infant. And I felt that was almost like a relief that was something that, to be in order, like be sealed and be officially like part of God's kingdom and kind of seal yourself, that it was a relief. I didn't have to worry about all the what ifs. Like, what if something happens and I'm not baptized now? I would say to somebody who is maybe having different struggles and different contemplations during their faith journeys is even your small moments can make a big difference for somebody else. Because if like that family I babysat for didn't have like their Lord's Prayer hung up, or didn't ask me to read their children's Bible for them at bedtime, or didn't offer to invite me to go to Sunday schools, or didn't offer to invite me to go to different organizations, or just have their faith be so natural and a part of their day-to-day, there's different parts that wouldn't have stood out. Like there was a moment in my high school class with biology, and we're going through cell levels and organizations, and there's just so much complexity in all of that, and we're breaking it down to smaller and smaller and smaller parts and get to that very basic structure of how everything creates. And she goes, well, there's that spark, there's that something else. And somebody else asks, like, well, where does that come from? And she goes, creation, that's God, that's your, that's that faith, that's that spark of life, that's that energy, it just seems so natural. And so even if you don't think that you're making a big impact, that doing your small gestures as a kind, doing good, being good kind of Christian philosophy can make a really big impact into somebody else's life, and you may not even get to know that.